think the biggest thing in my life that was a game changer was when I was 17. I recently split up with my boyfriend and was going through my first cut. I was very traumatised, and me and my friend had been drinking up the coast. She was 18, I was 17. Anyway, I ended up getting we hitched down to Newcastle together, and I met the singer of Screaming Jets that night and was kissing up with him at the pub. Anyways, this was in 1997, and me and her had an argument later that night, and we went our separate ways. She hitched back up to Maxville. The next day, I woke up in I'd found some guy that let me sleep in his car, and I was parked at the train station. So I just wandered out of the car into the chain, jumped on the chain, got out in Granville. First time I'd sort of been to Granville. I was a country girl, and in that, within an hour or two, I started to get depressed. I rang my friend up. I said, "Beck, I need you. I'm really down. Come down to Granville." And she hitched straight down from Maxville to Granville, and her and I were walking along, and this blonde, curly-haired, her name was Natasha, I remember, girl, she was about 15, she came up to us, talking to us on the street, and she had this 10-year-old kid with them, and I think they were addicts, and I think they were paid, but they introduced us to these older Lebanese guys, and being naive, we said, "Do you know our friend Carlos?" Because we knew one Lebanese guy from up the coast, and they pretended they did and drove us around looking, and before too long we agreed to having a beer. And I was a pretty big drinker, and my friend Rebecca, she didn't used to drink, and I don't remember anything then until it was dark and I woke up in some bins in an alleyway. Anyway, about 10 hours later, I found my friend Rebecca, and she had woken up in the motel room with these guys sort of slain all over the place. She had no clothes on. She had a chunk burnt out of her toe, which I believe was to check how, subdued she was by the things they drugged her with. Maybe I came to, and that's why they dumped me off earlier. I don't know, but she woke up with them everywhere and naked, and she grabbed her clothing and ran out of the motel onto the street, and an ambulance luckily picked her up. She went back and done the rape kits and everything, and she went through with laying charges, and anyway, I didn't do any of that. I never have. She was waiting for compensation 2 years later when she hung herself on her mother's back tree. See, from that day, she went into a shock-induced psychosis. It was never really Beck after that. She just didn't want to be here, and so badly that she'd, slipped into a psychotic episode, and with that bit of trauma that happened to us. And because the next day I tried to get her to leave the city with me and she wouldn't, I felt like she'd been let down by me. I never got past feeling guilty. I used to will it on myself that I could have tolerated both of our abuse, and even been conscious if she was spared. I that moment went really wrong. I've never been racist or judgmental, or I actually don't even have hatredness towards the perpetrators. I was in prison many years later talking to some girls, though, that had been attacked by the actual same syndicate of people. It was a big, well-known thing. It was about a week after that happened that I met my first junkie, and that day I had my first shot, and within having my first shot of heroin, maybe a week later I began working in the Love Machine in King's Cross. So it definitely had dire straight consequences. I wasn't a flirty girl. I was actually quite timid on exposing myself or anything like that, and it just wasn't to suit me. It didn't suit me, that job. I never fit into it. It wasn't meant for me, but it's what I thought I needed to do to survive, and it became a big chunk of my life after that. Yeah, I just think that I never was the same after that moment. A friend of mine found me. She'd been looking for me and told me of Beck's death, and I remember when I was using, I actually, literally, I didn't like being left when she was so badly affected. I didn't like being left. I didn't want to be here. She was the most beautiful person I ever laid eyes on, and the first day I saw her, I thought, I have to know you. And I did, and we became best friends and done everything together. It's just that I was the one that was a rat bag. She didn't do anything wrong ever. She hardly even drank. Yeah. Anyway, that's one of my most life-altering experiences. I spent the next 20 years then trying to do anything I could to stop females from going near guys, and if anyone that knows me sees this, then they know what I mean. I just, I'd give anything to stop them chasing it from somebody else, and I used to put myself out there a lot and give a lot of myself to try to encourage women to love themselves and know how precious they are. It truly is the reason why I am who I am and how I am today.